Hi guys, welcome back to Office Hours. Today I'm doing something different, which is a solo episode. So today I wanted to talk about something that affects all of us, whether we realize it or not, which is propaganda. How it shapes what we believe, what stories we hear, and how it influences our understanding of conflicts, especially those in the Middle East, like Palestine. We will also discuss how propaganda has been used historically and how similar tactics can be found across different regimes, always with the goal of controlling narratives and justifying violence. So, first, I want to start with what propaganda is. So, propaganda is a tool, a very powerful one. It is information, often biased or misleading, used to promote a particular political cause or point of view. It shapes public opinion by appealing to emotions, simplifying complex realities, and sometimes by demonizing the other. It's not about lying outright, it's about controlling what information people get and how they interpret it. Um, which is all over the place, genuinely all over the place. But I truly believe that propaganda is the most evident in coverage of the Middle East. When it comes to Palestine, Western media often repeats the same patterns of Palestinians are just terrorists and aggressors, and Israel is the sole democracy of the Middle East. They're victims. And it's so crazy. Like, one of my first thoughts when it comes to like the complexity of propaganda, an example of propaganda is kind of how everyone has always said that Palestine, Israel, it's so complicated. It's so complicated. The average mind would not be able to understand how complicated this is. Like, guys, don't even worry about like educating yourselves because you just can't do that. That's insane to me. Like, genuinely insane to me. And if you genuinely have said that or think that, let's talk. But so they said all that. It's so complicated, you can't do this. But then they come out and just reduce it all down to Palestinians are terrorists, Israel's defending himself. So who wouldn't believe that? Who would be like, oh well, first they tell us it's so complicated. Now they're simplifying it for us. Cool, yeah, Israel's just defending itself without having like done any like one Google search. They're just like, okay. And this simplification ignores the realities of occupation, of displacement, of the systematic inequality that Palestinians face daily. And this kind of propaganda works to justify policies like military occupation, blockage, and violence, all while framing these actions as, again, self defense. Turning towards more like historical evidence, propaganda is not unique to any one group or time. In fact, history has shown us how dangerous it can be. The Nazis, for example, used propaganda to dehumanize Jewish people, justifying genocide and to manipulate public opinion. They controlled media, art, education, and culture, all to serve a political agenda rooted in hate and supremacy. While it's very important to be careful with comparisons, what we can observe is that propaganda techniques like scapegoating and rewriting history have been used repeatedly by many powers to justify violence and oppression. Today, I would argue that similar if not the same propaganda techniques are used to defend Israeli policies against Palestinians, framing resistance as terrorism, denying historical narratives, and promoting a victimhood narrative for themselves. So understanding like these historical patterns, which I'll give you a few examples in a second, help us critically analyze what we hear, what we see, and what we read, and question whose interests are really being served in these narratives. So when I said it's the exact same, my mind goes to right to dehumanizing. And the Nazis used dehumanizing propaganda against the Jewish people, and they would compare them to rats. And they had all these posters and everything. You guys can do a quick Google search, or maybe I'll insert it here. Anyways, so they dehumanize them in a sense to say, don't worry, it's fine that we're killing them. It's fine that we're burning their bodies and ripping them from their homes and doing this mass genocide because they're not human. It's fine. And we see that done again in the case of Palestinians. Palestinians are animals. It's fine that we're bombing them repeatedly and ripping them from their homes and committing these atrocious crimes against humanity because they're not human, they're animals. And it's just mind-boggling to me that I feel like we're not making those comparisons enough. And I think even as people of color, like, I pretty sure all of our countries have once been colonized, and they were able to be colonized by these exact type of propaganda, to say, like, civilizing missions, for example, which honestly I should do a whole episode about. um but civilizing missions is this idea of, like, oh my god, we need to go help them, we need to save them, we need to bring Western ideas and democracy to these countries, to civilize them, to make them normal, aka more white. And that was used to justify so much violence that came with colonialism. And not only violence, that was used as justification for Western powers to come into countries, destroy them, destabilize them beyond repair, and leave. And it's just crazy to me. But yeah, propaganda isn't just history, and I think it's even crazy that we always are learning about history. And I think everyone has heard this. My father always told me, we learn history, Ziana, so we don't repeat it. We learn history and we repeat it over and over and over and over and over again. Like, when are we gonna learn? When are we gonna learn, guys? Genuine question, not rhetorical. But yeah, propaganda, it's happening right now all around us. It shapes elections, it shapes wars, and it shapes what we think about people halfway across the world. But again, then the question is, how do we resist it? I would say we resist it by seeking out diverse voices. I think, especially in the age of social media, it is so easy to get the Palestinian perspective. In Gaza, we're watching their videos. We can get that perspective quite easily. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that. It can be, if you're confused about what's going on in Palestine, why don't you talk to a Palestinian? There's so many around you. And it's even like, it doesn't even have to be Palestine. It could be anyone, like any narrative. Like, ask questions, challenge yourself, challenge your beliefs. I also think reading critically is a very important skill that unfortunately is not talked about. I think I am privileged having to study politics, which helps me engage with text critically. I should do a whole episode about that too, guys. I'm inspiring myself right now, but that would be another one. And I think the last one is just to refuse to accept simple stories. I think there's a lot that they don't want you to know. I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but there's a lot they don't want you to know. And I think if it sounds too simple, question it a little bit. And if we don't do this, I feel that we risk becoming compliant in injustice. And not by action, but just by silence and just accepting what we're hearing. Um, but yeah, that's all I really have for you guys today. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in. See you guys next episode. And until then, stay curious, stay skeptical, and always question the stories you are told. Bye, guys.